Welcome back for episode 2 of Meet Your Local Law Enforcement Officer. You may be wondering why I have a picture of Ed Kelly up here instead of our law enforcement officer. Well, unfortunately, I don't have and can't seem to find a picture of today's law enforcement officer, but he is the law enforcer or henchman that Ed Kelly employed to remove Brandy White from a county council meeting because he didn't want to look at this sign that she happened to have sitting in the chair next to her, bothering no one. Kelly just didn't want to look at it. So today we are going to be talking about Deputy Jeffrey Hoffman. And we're going to go way back. We're going to jump in the Wayback Machine. And I'm going to have to go through this very quickly and just hit a lot of the highlights because there's so much in his file. Going back to 1993, and this was just backed up while, I don't know what that is, driving. Struck a United telephone box with the driver's rear bumper of the patrol car. Deputy Hoffman failed to observe the box while driving. So this is all the way back in 93. And we're going to go through a lot of this really quickly. And I want to go through, because especially this, using judgment. We're going to see how many times that and being safety minded, knowledge of rules, following instructions comes up in his history. So here we are at 1994, using judgment, oral and written communication, reports and correspondence, area unsatisfactory. Jeff Hoffman was at the District 4 office, and a 16-year-old female came into the office out of breath, reported that her sister's ex-boyfriend was harassing her sister and had tried to run her off the road. He didn't write a report. They later found out that there were 4 victims involved, determining the fact there had been a clear-cut case of aggravated assault on 2 occasions, and the suspect was actually in the parking lot entrance to District 4. As a matter of fact, after the victim left District 4, the suspect caught up with her and repeatedly rammed her vehicle, disabling it, and tried to choke the victim in her car. It took onlookers to intervene, saving the victim from injury, detain the suspect until Orange City police arrived. So because Jeff Hoffman didn't do his job, this 16-year-old girl had her car rammed and was choked in her car. And I'm telling you, this goes on and on and on. It's hard to read this, but it's just another following rules, using judgment, just another example of him not reporting things correctly. This was back in 1994. Apparently, this 17-year-old girl, this careless driver, supposedly ran him off the road. And during the traffic stop, he raised his voice, offending the driver, resulting in her breaking into tears and going home to her mother complaining. And his superior wrote, although I sympathize with Deputy Hoffman being scared and shaken, by a near collision, he must remember to remain a professional demeanor during adverse conditions. Again, here we go, attitude toward public, shown by appearance, words. So look at his attitude toward the public when Ed Kelly demanded that he remove Brandy White. This is back in, this is 96. So he was called out. Apparently somebody had shot somebody's window with a BB gun. And he came out. This is the actual letter that was sent in by the woman that her house had been shot with a BB gun. And apparently he just went off on a tirade about how she had moved into a city of hell to raise her family, and spoke very harshly with no concern to the young ears of impressionable children, not cautious at all in trying to cushion the terminology of firearms in front of the children. Apparently he just went off on Deltona, that it's just a crime zone and that it's riddled with drugs. This is right after Deltona actually became a city. And this woman was so distraught by his attitude that she felt the need to write this letter. Poor attitude, demeanor, critical comments, sustained. You know, this guy's history just goes on and on and on. No excuse for this kind of performance. Your lack of properly documenting the facts in this case could have been fatal as far as seeking prosecution. Once again, you know, we go back to, here is a crime scene. He ignores the evidence. Lost evidence when you go through this. But a lot of evidence just got ignored. So once again, we see for him unsatisfactory. Knowledge of rules, oral written communication, completing assignments, using initiative, following instructions, using judgment. This just goes on and on throughout his entire history. And over again, what we see here is, due to the aforementioned violations, I am hereby giving you a written reprimand, which will become part of your permanent part of your official personnel file in the county personnel office. Over and over, we see the same thing. Now, in my mind, I call this a negligent retention. This guy should have been fired a long time ago. Where, you know, now apparently he's getting close to retirement, and they've moved him over to the county building in DeLand, where he is harassing and illegally removing residents from open public meetings. Here's one where he didn't show up for work when he was supposed to. You state that you failed to check the on-call list for that date, and in fact, you were on vacation. So other people had to work extra hours because he didn't show up for work, didn't call in, didn't have his pager on him. Again, here's another one. This will become a permanent part of your official personnel file in the county personnel office. In 1996, while backing out of a driveway near the intersection of Doraka Drive and Owen Drive in Lake Helen, you struck a fence post, causing damage to your assigned patrol vehicle. One more time. This will become a permanent part of your official personnel file. People, this is what your tax dollars are paying for. If we go back down to the letter from the woman that wrote in because of the way he was talking in front of her kids, you demonstrated a lack of sensitivity toward the complainant and her children who were present. This lack of sensitivity with your comments not only damaged this family, but also put the VCSO in a bad light. Your comments caused a controversy within the community that should not have occurred. You cannot truthfully say that the experience you have had as a deputy sheriff in Deltona reflects the activity and conditions for the whole city. So that one was misrepresentation, controversial opinions. Now, these are all things that, mind you, he signed a contract that he would abide by the rules, their policies. And over again, we find, here's another one. You did not have your pager on nor with you, as ordered by Sergeant Kelly. During this time frame, you were paged by, again, didn't care, broke, just this guy doesn't, he doesn't show up for work. He's not wearing his pager when he's supposed to. Untruthfulness. It is my opinion that the attached memos prove this statement to be a false statement. And this goes back to the, not having his pager and claiming that he did. And once again, this letter will be a permanent attachment to the original letter of reprimand. Now we're in 2001. Here we have another one. Using judgment, using initiative. Nature of this crime, number of victims necessitates the need for an immediate investigation, especially with knowledge of a probable suspect and or lead. You failed to take any immediate action. There was nothing preventing you from completing the assignment that you requested. You just didn't do it. But yet he's still, here he is. He's going to get a pension that's paid for with your tax dollars. Counseling. He got counseling for this. Here's one where he was, in the presence of the entire shift. You said you would follow up with this information at that time. I gave you the name of this Nicholas and told you I believe he lived at this address. As I gave you this information, you had your pen in hand and appeared to be putting the information on paper. You led me to believe that you would investigate this lead. I had no reason to think otherwise. And then, after he didn't, his excuse was, I didn't write it down. Your failure to follow up on the information in a timely manner caused Deputy C. Brown work until almost 2,300 hours and caused Deputy Egan to work from 1,626 hours to 2,201 hours when he had been in an off-duty capacity. What do we see again? Using judgment, using initiative. Well, I would say that when, the county chair comes over and demands that you remove somebody that you have no constitutional authority to remove, that's another instance of using poor judgment. This is a good one. So this is in 2002. I observed you in Judge Warren's court in courtroom number 4. At that time, you were sitting down next to the prosecutor's table. There were 10 inmates in the jury box. Deputy Crabtree was standing at the end of the jury box nearest the exit doors. You should have been at the end of the jury box between the inmates and the judge's bench. While Judge Warren had a sidebar conference with the attorneys, you were talking and laughing with the 2 women seated at the prosecutor's table. Deputy Crabtree advised over the radio that the inmates being discussed by the judge were getting antsy. You either did not hear him because you were talking or you were not paying attention to the radio. The bailiff, Deputy Telegee, had to tell you to go stand at the far end of the jury box. Your inattention to your duties jeopardized the security of the courtroom. I have spoken to you on 2 other occasions about this same matter. And we see down here additional incidents of similar nature will be dealt with in progressive discipline. Well, if you talked to him about it twice, why aren't you already using progressive discipline? Following rules, using judgment, once again. And this just goes on and on. Inattention to duties, loafing, sleeping. He left 2 female prisoners that he was transporting in a van. They just forgot about them. Just left them in a van. Using judgment, completing assignments, knowledge of rules, thoroughness, following rules. So now we're up to 2006. 10 years have gone by. Actually, 13 years have gone by. And still the same thing. And he's still employed. This one had to do with a pursuit when he was, pursuing somebody on a motorcycle that apparently he should have, backed off of. And didn't. During this time, you did not announce your involvement in the pursuit, nor did you give way to the 2 marked patrol vehicles already involved. It just shows that this guy is rogue. He does what he wants to do. He shows up when he wants to. He doesn't show up when he doesn't want to. What do we see here? Knowledge of rules, oral written communication, unsatisfactory. Now we're in 2009. This one was while they were doing doing a motorcycle escort and didn't follow the rules. You were and this is my favorite part, when you were contacted at the conclusion of the escort by Sergeant Turney, attempted to counsel you on your actions. You went on a tirade and attempted to put the blame on other members of the motor unit. Although you apologized for your actions at a later time, it causes me great concern that you refuse to recognize the unsafe situation you created during the escort. So yeah, and here it goes into, it was an escort for a charity motorcycle ride through Volusia and Flagler counties. He committed 2 unsafe actions that were witnessed by VCSO motor instructors and then tried to blame it on somebody else. What do we see again? Using judgment, following instructions, analytical ability, knowledge of rules, technical skills, attitude toward coworkers, attitude toward supervisor, shown by appearance or words, following rules, being safety-minded. And this guy, again, is still employed. He is the one that will follow the orders of Ed Kelly and remove you from a public meeting, whether you've done anything wrong or not. Negligence, courtesy. We could be here all day with this. It just goes on and on. Failure to respond to a subpoena. He apparently did not, I think this was a second one where he did not respond to a subpoena. This was just for a traffic violation. Again, using judgment, following instructions, completing assignment, knowledge of rules. If he can't know the rules, we can't expect him to know the law. Following rules, observing work hours. So in this particular case, this is another one for not showing up to court when he was subpoenaed. And this was a traffic accident between a motorcycle and a vehicle, $5,000 in property damage. The at-fault driver was issued a citation for careless driving, resulting in property damage. On July 11, 2016, you were subpoenaed to appear in court for a traffic hearing. January 13, 2016, the subpoena was returned as hand-delivered to you. January 28th, you failed to appear. And what they say was that this was dismissed. Traffic citations are almost always dismissed, and this one was, when the issuing deputy does not appear. This can affect how an insurance company pays a claim or whether or not a dangerous driving pattern is detailed on a driver's record. When you ask about why you missed the court appearance, you were unable to provide a reason. So he had no reason for not showing up in court. I don't know, did that now cause the victim in this to have to fight even harder to fight their insurance claim? And this was in 2016. So we're, from 1993 through 2016, this guy has 37 pages in his IA jacket. This is the guy that removed Brandy White for this sign on the orders of Ed Kelly. Is this what you want your tax dollars paying for? We need to find out. We have to dig in and know who our taxes are paying for that are walking around out there with a gun and a badge. Thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. If you have any IA histories on any officers, please get in touch with us and send them, and we will get them out there. Again, thank you, and like, share, and subscribe.